It's about culture, good vibes, and gathering around the table.
There was a moment where I realized in food that food isn't just the physicality of what we're eating. Food is love.
Our culture is rich. Our food is flavorful, and our people are friendly. When we gather around the table, we celebrate milestones. We laugh until we cry, and we create memories that last a lifetime. Good food brings people together. Food is love. It's comfort. It reminds us of our roots. Caribbean nations have long been celebrated for our food. The flavors are bold, the colors are vibrant, and the dishes are hearty. There's nothing quite like it because there is nothing quite like us. Welcome to the Caribbean Cookout Show. Brace yourself for an adventure. We're diving into vibrant flavors, aromatic spices, and exquisite tastes that define Caribbean gastronomy. It's a story and it's a chef you don't want to miss out on. Welcome to the Caribbean Cookout. Today we're meeting Chef Digby Stridiron. While he preps his dishes, he's taking us on a culinary journey through his homeland, sharing his story and what makes his cuisine so special. Learn how to cook some of the most traditional and delicious Caribbean dishes using local ingredients and techniques that have been passed down for generations.
I've actually met Chef Digby before in his home island of St. Croix. He's got great skills in the kitchen and he's very easy on the eye too, and that always helps.
Well, we're expecting a story being told by Chef Digby. I'm super excited because I think Digby is one of this generation's griots. A griot is a storyteller.
With, of course, a little added twist just to keep things spicy. Chef Digby Stridiron comes from St. Croix. He had to start on a farm around wild fruit and animals. He actually left the culinary world just to come back and take it by storm. Now, Chef, I know that you're obviously a chef in Arizona. You come from St. Croix, but you're also a wealth of knowledge. Do you find that you're able to fuse the two and teach people through your dishes?
100%. I think food gives us a unique opportunity to tell stories of different cultures, right? And from the beginning of time, art has always been like one of those staples. My childhood and my upbringings in St. Croix, U.S. Virgin Islands, and Vieques, Puerto Rico, to me was a big part of not just my culinary journey in food, but who I am as a person, you know. The Puerto Rican Spanish culture mixed with the indigenous culture, the African sides of it. Being from the Virgin Islands, we were Danish. So that offered a lot to the way, not just the way I look at life and food, but to who I am as a person and the ingredients that I'm using as a chef. And I think with the food of the Caribbean allows us to talk a lot about the people that were there, you know, Tainos, Kalinagos, people that came in involuntarily, you know, Africans.
Yeah.
Then you had people that were on their own journeys in life that came by too. When I travel to other islands, I'm able to see very clearly how when you go from one island to each one, how there's these little micro changes, right? Where one island might use an ingredient more, or they might do something a little bit different. And for me, that was just a big part of my chapters on figuring out who I am and what I wanted to do. While I went back to school to Le Cordon Bleu, I ended up training with Chef Norman Van Aken. I think they had an opening and someone sent me over there. So I remember that day very well. Spending that time with Norman allowed me to look at my own cuisine through a different set of eyes. You know, does Kalaloo have to just be the Kalaloo that I grew up seeing? Does sauce have to be the same sauce? Does alcapurrias have to be the same alcapurrias? Or am I able to take the dishes that I grew up with that inspired me or that my culture, how do I make that more beautiful? And during that time frame, I was able to not just focus on the aesthetic of the food, but the techniques that would go into creating that style of food. And I started to understand that part of it. And to me, that's when I knew there was nothing else I was going to do with my life. I was going to spend the rest of my life cooking Caribbean, West Indian food, promoting West Indian culture, and just riding it.
We're also inviting a special guest unbeknownst to Chef Digby, someone who greatly influenced his journey. We'll sit down, break some bread, meet some friends, and reveal that big surprise. So join us for the Caribbean Cookout Show and discover the magic of Caribbean cuisine. right, it's almost time for the best part. So can we get a little teaser of what we're gonna have tonight?
No, we're gonna do escabeche, right? So escabeche has a lot of different names, pickup or escovitch. It's very similar to a ceviche, but it's more based on like a cooked fish or a cooked product, right? So lobster, conch, and shrimp. We're gonna do a nice little escabeche with some peppers, some avocados, some plantains, a whole lot of fun. Today we have some fresh caught Florida spiny tail lobster. We have some fresh Florida shrimp as well as some conch. All these are beautiful shellfish that we're gonna start pre-cooking them, right? So the first thing I wanna do is I wanna get these into some hot water. While that's going, I'm also gonna get my conch going because that's gonna take a little bit of time. So with conch, I have like a certain method I like to do. So you always wanna make sure you move this little wing right here on the side. So I always like to separate the large muscle right here from the little wing flap. Perfect, because they cook at 2 different rates, right? So we're gonna go ahead and get this in some water as well. So now we have these beautiful shrimps. First thing we wanna do is make sure we're cleaning them, right? Perfect. We got some green peppers, as well as we have a nice, beautiful red onion. We got some fresh garlic. We're gonna julienne all these and slice the garlic very thinly. The idea is we wanna make sure that all the produce that we're cutting from these peppers, we're making sure that we're cutting everything thin enough that when we cook it with the oil, it's gonna be able to cook just from that short time when it marinates. Awesome. For my spiny tail lobster, what I wanna do is just make sure I got it nice and flat. I'm gonna come over right over the middle, and I'm gonna go inside of it and try to get deep and just roll my knife into it. Perfect. Once I get it cut there, I'm gonna go inside, and this is exactly what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is to see that it's fully cooked, but there's a slight layer on the inside. That little layer on the inside is gonna allow me to get not allow it to dry out too much. And they are absolutely beautiful. So I wanna get my lobsters cut similar to like the size of my shrimps. So we're just gonna run it down about 2 or 3 times long ways, and then just cut them in nice little cubes. Amazing. And one of my favorite things about the spiny tail lobster is the flavor. I always feel like there's a lot of great shellfish that comes out of the ocean, but I feel like the lobster has a special way of really, really taking in the ocean and where it's at and picking up all the sweet flavors. So we're gonna get that in there. Perfect. So we got our shrimp in there, we have our lobster, and we're gonna go ahead and check on our conch. So I have the wing flap right here for the conch. This right here, within an hour and a half, you're gonna be completely good. While with the other mussel, I like to cook that for like another 30 minutes because it just takes a little while longer to get nice and tender. And for this, we just wanna have these nice little beautiful pieces right here. I'm gonna put that inside there as well. All right, so from right here, we have all our conch, we have our lobster, we have our shrimp in there. I'm just gonna go ahead and get some red onions on top of that. We're gonna get our red and green peppers on top of that as well. And that's just gonna give it the flavor, yo. So we slice the garlic really, really thin. We're gonna go ahead and put that there. Throw some bay leaves on there. We're gonna throw a couple sprigs of thyme. And while I got my oil, I took some grapeseed oil, about 50% grapeseed oil to 50% vegetable oil. You wanna go ahead and just get that warm in a pot. I have some cilantro. Let's just get a rough cut on it. Doesn't have to be perfect, doesn't have to be a crazy cut. So now that we have our escabeche, pretty much all our cuts are done, all our shellfish is cooked, we're gonna go ahead and start this. Hey, how's it going, yo?
Good, good. How's it going in here?
I can't complain, yo. Just, cooking, enjoying it, yo.
What do we have going on?
So you have some like lobster, some shrimp, you have some conch inside there, some fresh peppers, some herbs, thyme. What we're gonna do now is finish it. So I have this hot oil, so you might wanna stay back just a little bit. And we're gonna use this oil technique to kind of open up all the herbs in there.
Okay.
I'm gonna put that right on top.
So it's just cooking right in this bowl, or what do you?
Yeah. So for me personally, it's one of my favorite ways to actually cook. Is cooking with oil because oil is one of those vessels that it just absorbs flavor, right?
Okay.
And if you're using the right oil, it's just gonna absorb everything that you're putting into it. So we're gonna go ahead and just give that a quick stir.
And I know you mentioned thyme. Do you find that there are certain herbs or certain seasonings that you repeat, you repetitively use, particularly for Caribbean dishes?
I think every island has like things they do different, right? Like you go to Puerto Rico and there's more oregano over there.
Yeah.
For me, I think cilantro is definitely king, right?
Yeah.
But if you're from the Caribbean, you know culantro is actually the one that we use more, your shadow benny. So you have those right there. You have thyme that grows all over the place. You find fresh, different variations of mint and basil all over the islands. So there's all, like, to me, herbs and bush teas and those flavors, you always find them like in all the dishes.
Absolutely, so much to learn. And if you want to learn too, maybe follow along with this recipe. You can check out this QR code, of course. All the recipes and everything there are listed down, right? Anything we can maybe try?
There you go.
Thank you.
Yeah. Just throw it all down. It's like that.
So I know the guests are arriving. I'm gonna check in with them, and we'll see you soon.
Sounds like a plan. I look forward to it, yeah. So we're gonna just finish this off with some fresh limes, some fresh lemons. And that's that.
All right, before we go to break, while our chef is cooking in the kitchen, we want to check in with the chef of spirits, Louis Estrada. Hey, how are you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah?
Feeling great, yeah.
So what are we pairing with our dish tonight?
So today, Chef Digby is preparing an escabeche de mariscos. And it's usually paired with something lighter, something citrusy. I went against the norm.
All right, so we're taking a risk.
I wanted some, we have Appleton Estate Jamaican rum, which has beautiful notes of vanilla in it. So today we're making a rum old fashioned, okay? And I make my old fashioned a little different.
All right, let's jump right in.
Okay, so I'm using two different kind of bitters. So today we're using Angostura, we're using orange. So I'm gonna build it in my mixing glass. We usually use 4 dashes of Angostura. I'm doing 2 dashes of orange. We're gonna use some simple syrup today. We can use 1/4 of that. And we're gonna use 2 ounces of Appleton Estate
Shout out to
Jamaican rum.
Jamaica.
Shout out. Ice for dilution.
And mix it on
And here we
up.
go, yeah. This is where you get all those flavors mixing up. You mix up the bitters, which brings all the notes of the cocktail out. Our friendly rocks glass. We're gonna express 2 different citruses today. We're using lemon and a little bit of orange. We get the oils in there.
So we kind of wave it over the glass like that.
Just wave it over the glass. I kind of put it on the lip. And there we go, that's the rum old fashioned.
All right, and you can make this at home as well. Just check out our QR code. But stay tuned, we have an amazing conversation and definitely some amazing food coming up. We'll be right back.
For the second half of this dish, we're gonna be doing a cool avocado puree. And it's actually one of my favorite ingredients to make, so I'm gonna grab the blender. So we're gonna take these avocados and we're just gonna feed them into the blender real quick. These right here are Florida, so you're always gonna get that really super creamy. It's not gonna be as green as the Hass avocado that you'd expect. This is more of a creaminess. So we're gonna go ahead and get the citrus juice inside here. We don't want any of the seeds or any of those things, right? Now that we got our citrus in here, we're gonna add a little bit of salt. We're gonna go ahead and close it up and we're gonna give it a whirl. So once we give it a good spin and we get the citrus in there and the salt, I'm just gonna put this in a nice little bowl real quick. We're gonna set it in the fridge for later. So now that we got our marisco escabeche already in the fridge marinating, we have our avocado puree done. We'll start putting together, to me, what is my favorite ingredient, which is the plantain. We just want to do these small little cuts like that. They're all about like a little over 1 inch thick. So we got them there. We're just gonna drop them in this fryer that I have waiting for us right here. So what we're just gonna do is do a small fry for about 2.5 minutes. So now that we got our plantains fried on the first fry, we're gonna start removing them from the oil. So what you're just looking for is a nice GBD, which in the kitchen is the code word for golden brown and delicious. And you just want to make sure that the insides are nice and soft, because when you try to smash them, they're not going to smash properly if it's not. So we have basically like almost like a tostonera right here, but as long as you have any kind of surface where you could smash evenly, and if you have honestly like a frying pan, they work just fine. You just want to come up and push your plantain all the way down like that. You don't want to smush it to one side. There it goes, it just came right off, that's perfect. So we're gonna get these back into the fryer, and they're gonna fry for about another 2 to 3 minutes maybe, or just until they get crispy. So you want just about 2 to 3 minutes in some nice hot oil. So we have this beautiful avocado puree, which is just avocado, the citrus, and the salt. We're gonna get that on the bottom of the plate. So we're gonna go ahead and get this, we're gonna toss it around, because we wanna make sure you get the oils and all the lemon juice all over everything, right? So it's set in the fridge now for about 4 or 5 hours. So what that's gonna do is allow everything to kind of finish cooking, marinate, cool down. But what's gonna be really good is as the oil cools down, it's gonna contract all those flavors from all the peppers, all the different onions, garlic. That's all gonna consolidate into the flavor now of the lobsters and the shrimp. So you wanna go ahead and just put these out there. We're gonna put these on the side. I think this would be the perfect space for it right there. This is my marisco escabeche with aguacate and tostones.
So many of our fondest memories are made around the table and in the kitchen. So I think this is going to be a really evocative evening, and an evening that's filled with a kind of little island flavor, literally and figuratively.
So this, of course, is what the Caribbean Cookout is all about, elevating Caribbean cooking, our food, highlighting our food. So, Chef, I know that you had a mentor, right? So I want to kind of talk about that. Can we dive into that?
For sure. As far as mentorship in food, I would say my first mentor is definitely Emma, bro. She definitely gave me the courage to cook, but definitely the time spent with like Chef Norman Van Aken, really, and Brandon McGlynn.
For me, the first thought was like, wow, Chef came here to be a part of something that I'm doing. And it was very humbling.
I'm honored to be here and to be able to be a part of the celebration of Digby and his career and the place that he's taking things. It makes me feel tickled, you know, like a proud parent or a proud uncle or something.
So can we dive back into what we're eating and why you chose to cook seafood?
Yeah. For me, when I want to think about what is like Caribbean cuisine, West Indian cuisine, it's two things, right? It's recipes and it's ingredients. So with plantains and avocado, that's Caribbean. Lobster, shrimp, conch, peppers, those are all authentic Caribbean ingredients. Certain things came to us, but a lot of it's from there. When I think about recipes that I grew up with that's very familiar, being in Puerto Rico as a child, to me there was nothing better than going to like Piñones for my grandma, going to the beachside, get a little vasito, $2 for a cup. And usually somebody would get the lobster, somebody else gets the conch, and we all kind of like share little bites. So for me, this is right out of my childhood.
Digby himself is a melting pot, 110%. He has a lot of roots, and with those roots comes amazing food culture.
So everybody ready to dig in?
Absolutely.
All right.
What caught my eye about Digby, what struck me about him was his reverence for Caribbean food and his reverence for wishing to become a great chef.
Because that was one of the things I really appreciated at the time when I was with you was, I can't remember it word for word, but it was the compass that sits in Key West and the way it's able to touch different spaces. And that's when I was able to get the influence of, I am not just Puerto Rican and I'm not just Crucian, right? Of course. I am Caribbean. So if the waters touch Guyana, and it touches Belize, and I get to touch the cuff of the Keys. That is my cuisine.
Oh, I'm loving this. Oh yeah, absolutely. Particularly because I love the citrus tang.
Yes.
And I love that with the avocado, you really made it very tangy, very citrusy. Love that. Love that.
In its simplicity, it still tells an amazing story. And, you know, again, knowing you for the years that I've known you, I wouldn't have expected you to make anything different on this.
Yeah.
For this occasion. And it's lovely to see you play homage and really, really dig in. And I don't think I've ever seen you this humble before.
Mentorship is very important because, you know, as somebody who gives a lot, you need somebody to pour into you. An empty vessel cannot do what we do as chefs. It's all about giving it out.
I mean, the time that I spent in Florida definitely it changed my trajectory. And I went to school and I wanted to be a chef and I loved cooking and all the easy things to accomplish. I didn't understand how to express. For me, it was a moment where I'm like in a Ritz-Carlton, a multi-million-dollar restaurant, and I'm looking at the food that I grew up eating.
Yeah.
And just saying like, oh, I think I can do this for a while. I think this is something that I can do.
I felt it was important to give that love to Caribbean food that people had given to French food, Italian food. Now, I don't think that I've improved on the roots and the honesty and the ingredients. What I did was shuffle it in such a way that people in a white tablecloth restaurant would go, this is every bit as lovely as anything I've had in New York or Chicago, whatever. And, you know, of course, was always learning from the people that I was working with. And that gave me great joy and appreciation for Caribbean flavors in a way that just changed me. I mean, this was the first plantains formula. The Maduro plants, the first thing I ate that I would say was a Caribbean ingredient, you know, it blew my mind. I was in a restaurant, a little diner kind of restaurant in Key West, and it was dinner, and I had roast pork and black beans and rice. And I'm like, I'm from the Midwest, and why are there bananas on my dinner? And somebody said, you know, try it, you know, and I did, and I was like, blew me away. The flavors, the intensity, the sweetness of the caramelized plantain. And so, I mean, I still get goosebumps just the way that hit me. I think there was a certain Eurocentric notion that this was poor people's food. Yeah. And how could you serve that, in a restaurant where you're charging more than $9?
You know, our food wasn't intended first and foremost to be pretty, to look great on the plate. You guys have made it look good on the plate. Now that's the evolution of it, but it was to sustain us through a very, very hard and brutal time. And from that, we have these beautiful things centuries later that are on the plate. That's something to be really celebrated and proud of.
Yeah, from a history of tragedy, there's so much beauty. And but you said, you know, you've never seen people didn't hear fusion, but Caribbean food is fusion. It's a fusion of so many different histories.
I think people were afraid to touch Caribbean food because you never heard the words fusion, elevate, when it came to Caribbean food. Because one, I guess it may have been intimidating because it had so much soul and story behind it. And then it being so diverse. And you also know how to create recipes, right? And right, which one do I attack? Which version do I attack?
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because rice and peas and rice, I'm a take off rice, and there's different things. You didn't know which way to turn. But when you have a Caribbean cookout, it's all of it.
Yes.
And that's what the celebration is. You bring you, I bring me, we come together and we kind of enjoy it. And there's no, at that point, it's, oh, I can relate to this. This means this where I'm from. But the way that you do it is just as delicious.
Yes.
And it has that story and it has that soul.
Caribbean cuisine has been, it's been out of the spotlight. It's been downplayed, as Norman was saying, as poor people's food, as a working man's food. And that's largely because of its origins as a food that sustained enslaved people throughout the region. But look at the beautiful way. First of all, it's amazing that that food has sustained our people for hundreds of years. But look at what it is evolving to. It's not just nourishing, it's not just sustaining. It's beautiful, it's sophisticated, it's loved by people who have nothing to do with this region.
For me, this was a great experience. The opportunity to highlight Caribbean food and showcase the ingredients, and more so also the people that came to the dinner and surprised us, and the conversations we had tonight, and just to go home and think about some of the combos and where is that going to take us from now? To me, that's exciting, right?
Being the only non-Caribbean born person here is another form of honor.
My favorite part of tonight was just being able to witness this. I think for the next generation of chefs that are able to see this, it will be able to inspire them to continue that path.